we'll be talking about third eye, intuition, manifestation, law of attraction, self-love, co-creation. And if you have any questions, please send us the questions on here. There we go. Okay, so let's start by talking about third eye.
Yes. How about the third eye?
All about the third eye.
All about the third eye. Well, the third eye is initially the intuition that we are all born with. So in fact, the third eye is born with us. It's not something that we learn. It's our sixth sense that a lot of people don't realize that they have innately. It is our birthright to have the third eye. And with the third eye or the intuition or our intentions, we're capable of manifesting great things.
This is Christine, by the way. She's an amazing hypnotherapist. She does past life regressions, Reiki, all this amazing stuff. She's my personal healer, so gotta go check her out. She's amazing.
Keep at that.
So, okay, a lot of people want to know, how do you open the third eye?
Well, one of the best ways to open the third eye is really through meditation. And in meditation, you're able to reconnect with your authentic self. And once you reconnect with your authentic self, you just allow that intuition to come in many different forms, whether it's visions or feelings, which is the two ways that the universe connects with us anyways, their visions and feelings. And then most of all, it's the trusting that your intuition will work for you, it will be there for you, it will guide your way.
But everybody says, like, oh, decalcify the pineal gland, and I think that could help, but I think it's more than just that, you know, like it takes the self-work, and a big part of what I've discovered in my journey is that you have to make sure you don't have any thoughts that are blocking it. You know, like we're all raised from birth, and then like we have it when we're a kid, but then society molds us and tells us that ghosts aren't real, spirits aren't real, you can't talk to angels, all this stuff. And so we have all these beliefs in our subconscious, whether we're aware of it or not, that could be keeping us from it. So for me, I thought, okay, like my third eye's open, how come I'm not seeing anything? How come I'm not receiving anything? Well, for me, I had to shut it down because it was distracting me in school, but I didn't realize what I had done. My third eye was still open, but my crown chakra was closed. So I couldn't receive that information. So we have to make sure the crown chakra is open too, because that's where it comes in.
The downloads.
Yes. So for me, I spent a lot of time going through my mind to see if I had any beliefs in my subconscious that said, oh, you can't do it, oh, this isn't real, oh, it's scary. All this kind of stuff. And once you
or the judgment that comes with it, where 98% of the population doesn't realize that this is our innate way of being. People think of us as different or weird, or you know, they're afraid because of their own lack of trust in their own third eye. So the biggest thing for me was when I was little, I used to walk around with my hands held up high, and people would ask me, what are you doing? And I would say, oh, I'm walking around with my angels and fairies. And soon enough, that became a thing of people just telling me, shh, like that's not normal. And so what happens, up until around age of 4, we're very much connected, you know. Even I would say up until around age 7, before the ego awakens, I want to say, between the ages of 7 and 9, we're very much connected to our intuition, to our, you know, higher self. But then life changes things.
What do you think? A lot of people, you know, they're like, oh, like, especially Christians, you know, like I was a Christian and you were raised religious too, is that the first instinct people think is, oh, it's a demon. Like, what's wrong with our beliefs that we would instantly think is something negative? And how can we determine? Because a lot of people are scared in the beginning, thinking, how can you know it's something good? How do you know it's not trying to trick you? All this kind of stuff. So I think it comes down to if it resonates with you or not, you know? Like if somebody has some kind of issue and they're hearing something that says, you know, kill people, that's obviously not good, and that's not your angels telling you to do that. If it's something that makes sense, if it's something that's logical, this little divine guidance, insight, spark of just beautiful, is so helpful, and it really resonates with your soul, and that's when you know it's not going to hurt you. And you can start to trust it gradually. For me, when I first reconnected with my third eye, it was kind of scary. We had to desensitize to it because having that cut off for so long, it's not normal. So it takes desensitizing. So be patient with yourselves because it takes time. It's not something you really want to dive straight into.
Absolutely. And a lot of the clients that come my way come because their third eye suddenly, from trauma or whatever it could be, suddenly it opens and they don't know what to do with it. It scares them. But one of the easiest ways that I tell my clients when to know if it's your intuition and your third eye or when it's your ego is just really simple. When it's your third eye, it's in your intuition, it's always positive, loving, like you said. It would never come as fear, but when it's the ego, it comes as dark and negative and fearful, and so that's the easiest way to determine if it's your third eye intuition or the other side.
Yes, and what helped me a lot was when I first came to Christina, I was kind of having this issue of my own, and I was really scared, and you said to say any negative entity needs to leave, only beings of love and light and my highest good are welcome here. And that's what really helped me. But on my third eye journey, it was very weird because I wasn't afraid, like I was a very fearful, anxious person. So for me, I would say the thing that you told me to say, and then maybe I would see something, I would say any negative beings have to leave, and it would stay, and I would think, okay, must be a positive one, but at the same time it was like new and scary and intimidating, so I was like, okay, if you're good you have to leave too. So then they all leave.
Exactly.
And I'm like, was it good or bad? And I just psyching myself out.
Because at the end of the day, we have free will and we have the power to tell whatever energies are around us, whether they're welcome or not. I mean, in sessions, unless I welcome a spirit energy that I know my client will be okay with, I don't welcome spirits into the sessions. I just say love and life, fill this space and bring healing, but I don't specifically say loved ones to show up. But when I see a client that's so eager and wants to connect with their loved ones, all I need to do is just through my thoughts send the universe that information, and a loved one shows up, and suddenly in our sessions, you know, we get to talk to loved ones or communicate, or signs are shown, or feelings are experienced, like the chills that go through us. It's the spirit loved ones moving right through us, right? And then confirmations and information that comes in where that would be something that I wouldn't know because my client would never told me, and then the client confirms and they start crying and they say, or there's a light over there actually that goes on often.
Yes, that's spirit all the time. Sometimes, like the other day I was standing outside meditating and I was like, guys, like, give me a sign. And then I heard a really loud boom, and I was like, oh no, you scared me. I'm like, not like that. It scared me.
Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the universal loves to play with us, so you gotta be careful what you ask for.
So what kind of signs can people look out for when their angels, guides, or loved ones are here?
Oh goodness. Oh, so many signs. They come through numbers, they come through words, they come through billboards even, they come through license plates, frames of a license plate, they come through, I don't know, bumper stickers, I mean, you name it, the signs are there, or birds and feathers and little coins that you find on the ground. It's, you think it, you send the information, and the message is always there. It never fails.
Definitely. And for me, I get a lot of those like little tiny sparks, you know what I mean? The little tiny dots, it's like silver usually. I see those all the time. I'll be thinking about something and I see a little spark and I'm like, okay, I see.
Exactly.
Some people say it's like the static electricity of the angel like walking by or something.
That's right. And it happens in our sessions where I would see from the other side sparks of light everywhere, and I would tell my client, oh, so-and-so confirms. That's what we're talking about.
Sometimes like flashes of lights out of the corner of your eye, or like the lights flickering in the room, or like you said, feathers. And some people say like if your loved one had a specific cologne they would wear, you can extrasensory
or
smell.
Or if you smoke, you suddenly smell smoke or perfume. Yes, absolutely.
For me, my grandma was a smoker, so she had smoker's voice, whatever. So when she would breathe, she had this very specific breathing pattern, and I would hear it sometimes.
I love that. I love that. Yes. That's in the shadows that we see, because this is our peripheral vision, and so the shadows really help us to understand that spirit is always around. And then you turn, there's nothing there, because you just brought your ego into the picture.
So people think opening the third eye is dangerous. Are there any dangers, do you think?
I don't believe there are any dangers to opening the third eye, only because, again, third eye is who we are, and it's our innate birthright. And so what danger could there be other than you trusting yourself and the universe and guiding your way? So I don't think there's any, fear in opening the third eye, because the third eye doesn't open to scare you. It opens to help you live life more productively, more joyfully.
Right. In my experience, though, it was kind of interesting because, like, the negative entities or something, I didn't know my own power, so I would let them linger. And because of free will, we have to let them there. And by being afraid of them, it's allowing them to stay.
That's
so we
right.
have to know
That's
our
right.
power.
They're attracted to fear.
Yes.
That's what they're attracted to. They're not attracted to love.
Mm-hmm.
Just by vibrating on the low love frequency, you're able to kind of banish them.
Yes.
Way.
Yes, we can get them out. We can call on our angels.
Yes.
We can tell them they can't be here, and they will leave. And also, I think, like, part of the third eye or whatever, it's like you start to see reality kind of for what it is. Maybe you once thought the government was on your side, and you're starting to see the reality. And, like, that's the only real danger I could think of, other than, like, if you see an entity and you get scared, because then people have a cushy, comfy life, maybe love their 9-to-5 jobs, but then their third eye opens and they realize, oh, there's more to life than this. And it's kind of hard to go back to the old cushy life that way, unless you're, like, living in total ignorance.
Exactly. And misery.
Yes.
I used to live that life. I know that.
Me too. Yes.
So the crown chakra, of course, on a physical level, we have the 7 chakras, which is the crown, the wisdom. I call this our umbilical cord to the universe. That's just how I visualize it. It helps me to feel the connection, that white light. And then, of course, that's the first chakra, and then go into third eye, and then throat, and then heart center, and our solar plexus, sacral, and root. So the crown is really the opening and wisdom that we receive from the universe.
So do you think if the crown chakra is closed, it might be harder to receive that information even if your third eye is open?
Absolutely. One of the best ways I can explain and give you an example is years ago I removed all 4 of my wisdom teeth, and the doctor, of course, prescribed me antibiotics and painkillers, and he said, you have to take these because you'll have an infection and you'll die from the pain. And of course I didn't believe him. I came home, I didn't have any pain whatsoever. 4 of them removed all at once.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, because I had my meditation recording with me, and he was just laughing at me. He's like, yeah, you mean to tell me hypnosis works? And I said, I'll prove to you that it works. So I had my meditation in my ears while he was getting in there and removing my teeth. Yes.
Oh God, I can't do that.
And so I came home, and while I didn't take the 4 pain medications that he prescribed, I said, okay, let me just take one antibiotic pill. Oh boy, was that a mistake. I took one, and within 10 minutes or half an hour, I felt this complete disconnect. It felt like a clamp had just been, just like an umbilical cord where a baby or an infant is removed from the mom, and that grief that they feel, they start crying. That's how I felt. I felt completely disconnected, and while I felt disconnected from there, I felt like I wasn't connected to any of my other chakras. It was just so scary, and I just called out at my husband. I wrote it to him. I said, give me water! Give me as much water as possible so I can flush this out of my system. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, and that was the last time I took antibiotics. I just went back into meditation, and I just said, I know my body knows how to heal itself. Let's do that. And that's exactly what we did. My doctor still uses me as an example to all her patients, saying she never took the pain medication, she never took the antibiotics, and she healed. Within less than 2 days, I went back to see her. It was all closed up and healed.
Oh my gosh.
She was shocked. She was like, what? It's the trust, my love, comes back to, right? The intuition, the trust.
Yes, it's so true that you say that, because sometimes my guides will offer me, like, insight that seems kind of counterintuitive, and then you do it, and it ends up working out. It's like, who would have known?
Exactly.
And I think that's part of it, too. Like, people get a little bit scared to, like, follow this information that they're being given, whether it's in terms of their career, taking the leap of faith, that kind of stuff, or just in general, because sometimes I get advice that seems kind of like, really? And then you feel it, it's like, okay, I don't know how this is going to work out, but it works out.
But exactly, because oftentimes decisions that are made by the ego, whether it's a job that we take or a relationship that we get into, usually with jobs, it's like, oh, that one pays more, but then you get the job and you're miserable. And then the one that paid less would have been a joyful experience that would have helped you to get a promotion and make more money, but you gave it up because your logic, your left brain said, but there's more money here.
Yes.
So that always gets people in trouble.
Yeah, because we can easily convince ourselves that something's good for us when it isn't. And I think your story is really inspiring, like, for your work life, if you want to tell them, because a lot of people are messaging me like, hey, I feel like I want to quit my job, I feel like this is my calling, but I just can't do it, but I know it'll make me happy.
So you know my story, but I'll just say it anyway. So it was 2008. I really hit rock bottom with my career. I was an accountant for about a decade, and during that time, year after year, in 10 years of accounting, I changed maybe 7 to 8 jobs. That's how miserable I was. The only time that I was happy at my jobs was when I would give my 2 weeks notice, or find out the company was downsizing, or find out the company is completely closing. Those were the happy times for me in accounting, which was really sad to be happy about something so, negative. But then in 2008, I really hit rock bottom to a place where one day I was at work, and I had 2 coworkers who were both male. Something came over me, and I got up and I stood right in the middle of both their cubicles, and I just said, you guys, if I have to do this for the next 35 years or so, I'd rather kill myself. And in that moment, at that time, I didn't know what it was. I had an out-of-body experience, and then I looked at myself, and it scared me to see me standing there with so much grief and lack of hope. And I mean, it was just a very dark moment. And from that moment on, that was probably end of 2008, and very quickly things started to shift. I manifested my own layoff, by the way, and I didn't know what day it was going to be, March 4th, and my life just took a drastic turn. At the time, I thought was for worse, but in fact, it was for better. Within 3 months, I found my school, hypnotherapy school. I started my master's degree program, and all of that came from just really, again, the same thing, trusting my intuition and my third eye, because I just prayed every day for 3 days. I specifically remember that those 3 days that changed my life in the middle of 2009, and I never looked back. For those 3 days at night, on the third night, I saw a dream, and it was a very vague dream, but it was a very specific dream, and it was an intuitive dream, so it made a lot of sense. For a typical person, it wouldn't have made sense, but I saw myself, and I looked from bottom to top, and I just said, I know who I am. And suddenly that knowing was so confident, and still at the time I was pushing for the CPA exam. I was studying for the CPA exam. And so what happened is I woke up in the morning, took my laptop, and I just Googled in hypnotherapy, and I looked at that word, and I said, what is that word? I've never heard of it. No one has ever experienced it. But in that moment was the decision that I made to trust and to say this is divine intervention and not question it. And so I went to a therapist myself. Within a couple of sessions, I literally overcame depression, anxiety, and panic, and all of those negative things. And I said, I'm dedicating my life to this work, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's what I want to do too. I think that's very interesting, especially how it's like you just trust it, and you know deep inside that it's going to work out. You don't have to know how it's going to work. And I think like the thing is too, when you're in a job that you hate, you have so much resistance built up behind it that it's going to be harder to make money. You're going to be suffering.
Absolutely.
Versus if you had a job you loved, you're going to be flowing. It's going to come into your life easily. You could gain so much abundance from doing what you want to love.
Not to get off topic, but that brings up the idea of the allowing versus force. Anything that we force is not driven by the universe. Therefore, no matter what we do, how much we force it, it's going to break down. Whether it's a relationship, a career, or anything. But then when you allow, it just naturally flows.
Definitely. And I think that part of that too is like we really can convince ourselves that something's good for us when it isn't. Because sometimes I'll say to people, hey, like follow your passions, do what makes you happy, follow your excitement. But people say, oh, what if what excites me is harming another person? And it's like, does that really resonate with you? Or did you just convince yourself that's what's going to make you happy? You know, because like 99% of the time we just convince ourselves like, oh, maybe this is going to make me happy. But we know deep down inside that it's not. So like when I say like follow your excitement, that's definitely like not it, you know, it's not what you mean at your heart center, it's what you're trying to convince yourself of, you know.
Because that doesn't come from the heart, that comes from the ego. Anyone that loves themselves and that coming back to the topic of self-love.
Mm-hmm.
When you love yourself, when you respect yourself, when you accept yourself, no matter what your past was, and we all have had difficult pasts. There's not a person on earth, I don't believe, that has had the perfect life or childhood or adult's life or young adult life, and it's a choice that we're making. And so at the end of the day, you can't think that you hurt someone else and be happy. That just shows that you're completely cut off from your heart center, from your intuition, from your spirit, from your higher self, because being cut off is what takes you deeper into the ego. And when you're deeper into the ego, that's the only time a person would think of harming others, because they're not connected to themselves.
Definitely. So how does somebody love themselves? Like, say somebody's really depressed, like how do they start that self-love, self-acceptance journey?
So it's one step at a time. There's not like, overnight, although I believe it's possible. I believe in the spirit and the spirit's ability to overcome anything within a second. Miracles happen in an instant. I do believe all of that, but every individual has their own path and journey of healing. And so, in the past 8 years, I've seen clients with 1 or 2 sessions overcome great trauma, 20 plus years of trauma. And then I have other clients who it takes them 4 or 5 sessions to overcome a 2-year trauma or an experience. It just depends on the person of how deeply they're attached to that, and what their expectations are, what their attachments are, why they're attached to that experience. What does it give them? Like, how does it, benefit their life? Because some people think if I let go of that, I lose a sense of who I am, but that's not who you are. That's merely an experience. And what that experience does, it pulls you away from yourself. And when it pulls you away from yourself, you're not loving yourself. Because who would want to be miserable, right? Who would want to be in the dark? Who would want to be sad? Who would want to be angry or filled with unforgiveness? All of these things, or fear. All of these things move us away from self-love, and when you're moving further away from self-love, it's harder to love yourself. And so one of the easiest ways for me to tell anybody is subconscious level of work. Hypnotherapy is a wonderful tool. Meditation is a wonderful tool. Journaling is a wonderful tool. There's so many different tools, and that's why in sessions what I do with clients is I give them multiple things to do, and then see whichever one, resonates with them the most.
Definitely. And for me personally, like what helped me, this is before I knew any of this metaphysical stuff. I was just like really depressed, had body dysmorphia, anxious, agoraphobia, like everything you could imagine. I was just really anxious. There were days when I would say, I don't want to talk to this person, I feel too ugly, you know what I mean? So instead of waking up and focusing on the things I was self-conscious about or that I hated about myself, I started to focus on a couple of things that I liked. And even though it was really hard to force me to see those things, I would be like, I guess I like my eyes or something, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And just focusing on those 3 things a day, like even if it seems insignificant or small, over time it can add up to really shift our perspective.
Absolutely.
So it's like rewiring your brain.
Absolutely. And really living from a place of gratitude. We can get back to self-love by being grateful for the things that we have in our lives, even the smallest things. It could be a pet, it could be a car, it could be, jewelry piece, it could be a piece of clothing. Whatever it is that you love, the more you focus on that, the closer it brings you to the love and high vibration of that energy.
Yes, I remember actually, I hadn't really thought about it, but along my journey, I remember there was like a specific day, I was like in the car coming home from church or something, and I was really depressed, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna count my blessings, So I had a piece of paper, and I started writing things I was grateful for. At first it was kind of like obvious things like, my house, I have food, that kind of stuff, but then as I went, it just kept flowing, and more stuff came out, and I was like, wow, I actually have a lot to be grateful for. And then like, for me, like now I'm even more grateful because I go out and like help the homeless and stuff, and it really shifts your perspective. It's like you come back to your house and it's like, whoa, like I was fortunate enough to be born into having shelter. It's really crazy, and that attitude of gratitude is really what's needed for abundance.
Absolutely.
And manifesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And one other easy way is to remember to be proud of ourselves. That definitely brings us back to self-love. Being proud of ourselves for who we are, what we do. It could be You gave somebody that would look sad on the street a smile, and being proud of yourself for doing that, because by doing that, it's like the reward system, and everybody works on the reward system, whether it's animals or children or adults, it does not matter. Reward system works.
Definitely. That is so true. I was trying to think, there was something else. But, oh yeah, being proud of yourself. So, like, a lot of people would look back at their past and be like, oh, how can I, like, live past this crap I went through, you know? But as you go on, you heal more, and time will heal it. You'll work on it over time. Like, something interesting, like, in the past, I never thought I would be able to talk about my struggles, because when I would try, I would start crying, you know? And I thought, how could I ever give, like, a talk about this if I'm going to cry about it? But the fact of the matter is, as time goes on, you heal, and as you heal, it becomes easier to talk about. And when you share it, then other people start to share theirs too, you know? Like, I really believe in women's circles and healing groups, and like, sometimes, like, there would be, like, a school event or something, and there would be healing groups, and then we would say, okay, let's talk about your hardships. And I knew, like, people would only talk about the most superficial level. Right. So even though I was, like, crying and stuff, I would tell them, like, the deepest stuff I was going through, like, eating disorders and all that stuff. And because I went that deep, it forced others to, like, go that deep with me and share their stories too.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah.
In group settings, people open up more oftentimes, because it allows them to see that, oh, other people are going through what I've gone through or what I'm going through. And one of the ways that we can overcome that is just really on a subconscious level disconnecting from that emotional charge, because that's all it is. We're connected emotionally, energetically to that experience, to that memory. And the moment on a subconscious level you disconnect that connection, that cord, that's when that emotional experience suddenly becomes just a story. And you're able to talk about it without crying. Yes. I know my past I used to talk and cry, and now I talk about it like, oh, it's just a story. Yeah. Because there's no emotional connection to it.
And like, the only time I ever look back is to, like, look how far I've come, and to see that strength, and just holding on to that strength, and that strength feeling of looking back and realizing, wow, like, I'm in a better place today. Like, even at days where it feels like, oh, I haven't grown today, it's like, oh, I grew from the past. And on the note of healing from those things, I was reading a book talking about holographic healing. I guess it would kind of be like hypnotherapy. For me, what I did to heal some of my traumas and wounds was going into meditation, and then bringing up a painful time, seeing it kind of objectively from, like, a third person point of view, and then being the person that I would have wanted myself to have there, like, being the friend I would have wanted to be there, imagining an angel being there for me or something. And you can, like, alter that in your head, like, how the story plays out, because it's, like, stored like little files, like the picture thumbnails are in our brains.
And the longer that story is moved back into the past, the more the story changes. Because remember, our mind has a way of creating more drama, and the ego has a way of creating more, adding more words, more emotions, more stories into the same story. And the story that happened maybe 1 year ago is going to be very different 5 years from now or 10 years from now, because each time you go into it, the more attachment you give it, the more energy you give it, the more dramatic it becomes.
Right. So instead of going back with drama, go back and shift it to something that it might not have been, but when you see that and, like, you feel it, you're there for yourself, and you feel the emotions. And in my opinion, like, we're here to feel. We're not here to repress. We're here to experience, and repressing is keeping us from experiencing. So when we really feel all that pain for what it is, and, like, let that repression out, like, let it out of the bottle. I used to bottle up everything. We can see it for what it is, feel it for what it is, and then as we're feeling that, we can say, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I gain from this? And when you process it, you can move on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And remember, we're co-creating our life. However you want to rewrite that story, you can. That's one of the tools I used to heal in my past, my childhood, and rewriting the story and saying, this is how it happened, and this is how it ended, and this is how it started, and everything shifts. That's when you're able to really overcome those experiences.
Let's talk about co-creating.
Yes. Co-creating. Was that one of our topics today?
Yes, it was.
All right. Co-creating. Of course, co-creating is really co-creators is really who we are as spirit. You know, we are co-creating our life with, whether we call it divinity, spirit, universe, source, God. Doesn't matter. It's that higher power that lives within ourselves, and we are co-creating every moment, every experience of our lives with that energy, which is why it is so important to manifest in the simple ways. And that's one of our topics, manifestation. And so through the manifestation process, what we're able to do is co-create our experiences to the best of our ability instead of just letting our mind or our ego and our thoughts to run wild. So what we do is you bring more focus to the positive experiences that you desire, not focusing on what you don't want, but focusing on what you do want, which makes a big difference in life. Because focusing on what you do want, you create the first step of the steps of manifestation, which is positive thoughts. And then that positive thought turns into a vision, which we are all visual beings, whether we realize it or not. And then the visions turn into feelings, and feelings then with visions combined turn into the manifestation, because you're putting that energy into it.
So what exactly is co-creating? For people that might not know.
Yes, so co-creating is basically, what do you want to experience in life? Is it negativity, fear, doubt, worry, or is it positivity? It's number one step is really choosing which side you want to be on, because we can't be on both sides at the same time. Our brain cannot function in both energies at the same time. It can only function in one energy. It's either negative or positive. So the first step of co-creating is really deciding, what do I want to create? Do I want to create negativity in my life, or do I want to create positivity in my life? And then you create the thoughts based on that energy that you've chosen. And the thoughts can be anything. I want, a bigger house, I want a better car, or I want a better career, or more money, or a vacation. Could be anything, or it could be the other side of the bridge as well. It could be misery and suffering and sadness. So it can, we are co-creating. The universe does not discriminate what we create, right? It's the law of attraction. What you give is what you receive in return.
Exactly. It's kind of like, also from my experience, if you're saying, okay, like I'm a negative person, like you might not be aware of what you're doing. I wasn't aware, but the more negative I was, the more negative I became, the more negativity I focused on, because that's what I was looking for. That was my perspective. And so when you're focusing on these negative things and not asking for help, not asking for guidance, because we do have free will, your guides say, okay, are you sure? Because I'm going to support you in this, and I'm going to let you go through this, And a lot of people think like, oh, why are there bad things in the world? It's like, did you ask for help? Because we have free will. They're not going to spoon feed us at all. We have to learn that. So it's just this big process of understanding what is going on in our subconscious minds. And something else I wanted to mention. This is a new perspective I've looked at in the past few days, and it actually shifted my life overnight, interestingly enough. So I used to always think, oh, I want this, I want that, like I want more followers, I want more money, that kind of stuff. But I realized by saying one, it's focusing on the absence of that in your life. The lack. I want money is affirming that I don't have money. So I realized like we might not be able to have money instantaneously, but we can have the feeling of attaining money instantaneously. So I said, okay, like I want to experience more of the feeling I get that comes along with this. So I said something along the lines of, I really love the feeling of well-being that goes along with gaining more money. And I would focus on the excitement of how that felt to receive abundance, and then it would start to come into your life, because you can have the feeling instantaneously. And that feeling and conviction brings it into your reality.
Exactly, which then comes back to the thoughts, and then the vision and feeling, and then the manifestation. And so a couple of points I want to add to that as far as manifestation. Remember how Christ said in his teachings, believe it and you achieve it. Believe it before you see it. That's one of the biggest things. And for me, that was a challenge when I first started this work.
Yes.
And it was like, well, I don't see it. How do I believe it? Well, I have to see it to believe it. But that's not how it works. That's how the ego works, where it wants proof, constantly proof that, okay, this is real, this is happening. But how spirit works and the universe works is based on trust. Again, coming back to the intuition and the trust that believe that you already have it and you will manifest it into your life.
And that's interesting. You said believing before seeing, because that one specific night I had told you about a while ago, I was channeling something and I wrote down believing is seeing, so then right then I look up and I see my guides and I'm like, I believed in you guys, and then I saw you, like, and this, I had seen them for a while, but still I was like, wow, it's so true, because they're not gonna like impose upon your free will. If you don't want that in your reality, it's not going to be in your reality. Like, you have to ask for it.
Absolutely. Ask and know you've already received.
Yes, and it's interesting too, because I think there was something in the Bible, I don't remember the quote exactly, but it was something like, you have not because you ask not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you gotta ask for it in order to get it.
And also the want word, which you just talked about, and you said want is lack. It absolutely is, because as long as we're chasing and wanting, it's always in the future. And so you keep chasing that want, that desire, and some of my clients come into sessions and they're frustrated. They're like, well, I've been manifesting this and I've been wanting this. Why hasn't it happened? And I tell them, the universe is so literal. We need to be so careful and literal about the way we ask for the things that we ask.
Yes.
And that's why we need to be very careful with our thoughts and words, where I always tell my clients, choose instead of want. I choose this experience. I choose to be prosperous. I choose to be healthy. I choose to be happy. I choose to be in love, right? So choice is, which is why I titled my book Living Through Choice, which comes out in June 2017. I know, I'm so excited too. So that was the purpose of the title, and I got that title in a meditation because I was struggling with the title for the book, and I was like, all right, universe, asking you know you received. I was like, I need a title. What do I title this book? And suddenly those words just were written in front of my eyes and my intuition in my inner eye, and that's become the title of my book, Living Through Choice, knowing that everything that we experience in life is through choice and nothing else.
Definitely. And co-creation too, like something recently that I had kind of understood is that, like group prayer and stuff, it works because it's so many people focusing on intention for one person. But the thing is, if the person doesn't accept that, it's not going to happen. So like the thing with healing and that kind of stuff is like all this inspiration, all this motivation, all this healing work is offered to you. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to accept it? Are you going to act on it? Or are you just going to sit there or doubt it? Because that's a big part of it. It's like, it's there for us. Are we going to act on it?
Even with Christ's teaching and healing work, remember, he wasn't able to heal the people that were in his city because nobody saw him as the healer. Everybody else in the world at the time was able to receive healing from him, but not from the people in the city because they knew him as little Joshua, right? Running around, that he's not a healer. And so it's the belief has a lot to do with that, yes.
Definitely. There was an experiment I saw too where psychologists or doctors would be testing psychics, and if there were a lot of skeptics in the room, or maybe people that didn't believe it and didn't want it in their reality, the psychics would report that it was really hard for them to do the work because it was kind of being blocked out. So then, like, a lot of the time, it would be harder or near impossible to do it if everybody is doubting it because we can't force it into their reality.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, they're putting a block of not believing. And so if they don't give you access, it is not in our higher self or will to pass through that barrier. We can't interfere in anybody's free will.
Yep, definitely. What are angel numbers?
Angel numbers to me, I mean, when I first started this work about 8 years ago, one of the first books I came across was During Virtues.
Yes.
I had the 101 or something like that. I still carry it in the car because every time, I mean, angel numbers are just not even just connected to angels. It's connected to our spirit guides. It's connected to our spirit loved ones. I can be thinking randomly about something. Next thing I know, bam, like the sign is there, and I look it up. I'm like, okay, you just answered my question. So that's what really the angel numbers are. If you have that book, that helps a lot. But to me, it's just, there's certain numbers like 222s mean let go and let God, right? Or 888 means abundance. And so these are numbers where if you're thinking about money and you're stressing out about money and suddenly you see a license plate with 888 and you're, okay, I get it. You're giving me the sign or 222 that says just trust and let go. It'll be there.
Yes, it was so funny. Like sometimes my friend would be driving or something and someone would cut us off. She'd be like, oh, and then she'd look and the license plate is no longer.
Exactly.
Or we'll be driving around in the parking lot, like, give me a sign. We're like looking at everyone, we're like, okay, and like, give me another one.
Or the parking spaces, right? That you can't find suddenly.
Oh my god.
Suddenly you say, angels, come on, any parking, somebody pulls out.
And a lot of people say, like, they notice 11 and 11, and that was the first one that I noticed too. Like, there's this weird, like, mysterious thing about, like, make a wish 11 11.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But then it's like, that is an angel number,
Yeah.
and if you're seeing it, what it means is keep your thoughts positive because they're manifesting rapidly. And if you're seeing it, it's like a really good first sign to see because it's really hard to miss, you know?
And it also depends on what your intention is for that number, because every day I see whether I'm working with a client is during, like in the morning, 11:11, I would look at the clock, or at night before bedtime, I would look at it, it's 11:11. To me, that's my connection to my grandmother. So every time I see it, and it's so weird, I'll be watching television, next thing I know, I look at the clock, it's 11:11, I'm like, oh, okay, you're just, you know, and she's the first thing that I connect with, the energy. So I'm like, okay, that's what that means to me. It can mean something different for everybody. It doesn't have to be, because for me, what spirituality is, there are no rules. There is no right, there is no wrong. And that's how I choose to focus on spirituality.
Definitely. It's interesting that you say that because I do that too. Like whenever I see 12:12, 12:21, 1:21, anything like that. Or like even 2:12 is like my guide chat.
Exactly.
And like 10:10 is like my other guides too. And it's really funny because like 2:12 means clean your house. But it's like that. And it's funny because there would be times where I would be at work or something and I'm like, can't you just do it for me? Can't you just tell me the answer? And then, right then, I got an angel number. Like, I had already heard them say, we're not going to spoon feed you. We're not going to do it for you. I'm like, why not? And then, like, 10 minutes later, I see an angel number. I look it up and it says, your guides can't just do it for you. And I'm like, oh, screw you.
Yeah.
Yes.
They won't, because, again, they will not interfere in our free will. That's what it's there for, right?
Yes.
For us to choose what we want to allow and what we don't. Yes, my love.
Yes.
Yes. The law of attraction is really the same thing. What you give out, what you plant is what you're going to get. You can't get anything different. And that's why when sometimes clients are upset at, you know, why am I getting all this crappy stuff in my life? I say, well, what are you planting? Toxic thoughts. And so what, you know, how can you expect anything different if you're planting toxic thoughts?
Yeah, and I think that's like really troublesome when people aren't aware of it, and we have to catch ourselves doing it, and like even subconsciously too, because for a while like I'd be telling myself something like I'm healthy, but subconsciously I was like, maybe I can convince myself that I'm happy if I, or like healthy or whatever, and I keep saying it, but like I was really broadcasting, I don't think I'm healthy, I'm kind of afraid, but I'm gonna say I'm healthy. So it's like
you can't put a Band-Aid on.
Yeah, like
it's a Band-Aid.
Yes, exactly. Even with like Reiki and stuff too, like we talked about before, like when you get Reiki, it's like if you haven't dealt with the issue, it's still there. Like I would keep coming back and it would lift a little bit, but then the issue's still there, kind of like taking Tylenol or something.
Right. Because oftentimes with trauma situations, what we want to do is just suppress it. Push it down so far down that you never have to deal with it. But at the end of the day, the only way we're going to heal is clean that closet, right?
Yes.
Bring it up, face it, so you can release it.
Exactly, and that takes a lot of strength, and it's something that's admirable too, you know, like don't be ashamed of your past, deal with it and learn from it. Because whenever we have like troublesome events or adversity, we can either let it beat us down, we can either repress it, or we can grow from it and learn from it.
Right, exactly.
So, dreams are like a really good area for our guides to communicate with us.
Absolutely. And so dreams, oftentimes clients tell me, I don't dream. I say, everybody dreams. There's not a person that does not dream. It's just that it could be you go into such a deep sleep, you don't remember your dreams. That's one of the things. And of course, like you said, the communication of the spirit, the universe, or our guides through dreams, even spirit loved ones. I mean, my father-in-law passed away about 2 months ago, February 8th, and he comes to me very often into my dreams because he knows this is what I do, and so I'm the only open energy in a sense in his family at this point. But while he was alive, he would never ask me about what I do because for him it was just so taboo, so weird, so different. But now that he's in spirit, he knows exactly what I do, and he's so quick to show himself to me in many different forms, in my sessions, outside of my sessions, in my dreams. And so, having said that, I always explain to my clients there's 3 stages of sleep and dream. So there's the wishful thinking when we first fall asleep, and sometimes you feel like fallen or all those feelings, and then we go into the middle of the night, which is the psychic dreams, which is where we really communicate with our higher self. And to me, a lot of times it's out of body experiences where I've caught myself in the universe, looking down at Earth that is this big, and I'm like, I hope I know how to get back. And I always do, because it's not time for us to go yet. But at the same time, no, we're not in a hurry, my love. Not yet.
Let's get back in. Oh my gosh, Chad, like my guy, he kept showing me this vision. I was like, what if I don't want to come back if I do ayahuasca or something? He like showed me like a toilet plunger and him like shoving me back in my body. He's like, I'm gonna shove you back in there. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yes, because there's work to be done still. And having said that, one of my very powerful dreams, which I have many and I document them all in a notebook. I had a dream years ago, I want to say at least 5 years ago. I had just fallen asleep and it was late and I saw this dream. I saw Christ energy, because, you know, for Christians it's Christ, for Buddhists it's Buddha, and it doesn't matter. It's that divine energy of love and light. And so I saw that energy in, you know, surrounded by all this white light, and it was just sitting and meditating on the ground. And I started walking towards it, and suddenly his energy did this to me. And I was like, oh my God, Christ is rejecting me. He doesn't want me. Of course, the ego quickly goes into the drama, right? And telepathically, I was told it's not your time yet because you still have a lot of work to do. And I came right back into my body and I took a deep breath and I woke up and I was like, oh my God, my heart was beating so fast. And I turned to my husband and he's like, what happened? Did you have a bad dream? And I told him, he's like, oh great, now you want to leave me? I said, no, not anytime soon. So yeah, and then the middle of the night is when we had those experiences, and then early in the morning between the 6th and the 8th hours are venting dreams, which is one of the most important times in dream state, where we're able to unload all the drama and illusions, and because on a daily basis we take in 60 to 65,000 bits of information into the brain, and so every night we must sleep at least 8 hours so that we get the chance of 6 to 8 hour venting. To get rid of a lot of information that is not necessary.
So what are the hours typically that we have those psychic dreams?
It's in the middle of the night. So think of 8 hours, and I want to say between hours of 2 and 6.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, 2 and 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes, but definitely, like, what I do personally, like, again, we have to ask for it because they're not going to just invade us for the most part, like, unless we've subconsciously agreed to it or something. So what I would do is, if there was a loved one I wanted to talk to, or if I wanted to talk to my guides or get guidance on an issue, I would give them permission to talk to me in my dreams, and I would usually have dreams about them. Or like what I also do every night is I give my guides permission to do energy work on me in my sleep. So I'll say, hey, please align my chakras, or I'll say, can you do some DNA activation on me while I'm sleeping? And it's amazing. I'll just lay there and I'll listen to a hypnosis or a meditation or some music, or I'll just lay there and say, like, do your thing, guys. And I'll hear them saying something, you feel it, and I get like the best sleep I've ever gotten. It feels like I'm waking up from Reiki and the spa, and I'm like, ooh. And that's when I first really started going, okay, like, I can trust these beings because they're actually healing me, like, physically and energetically.
I've had many, many experiences in the past and present where I would have a client on, you know, the massage table while doing Reiki or IET healing, and I would just step back, hold this space, and just say, all right, universe, guides, spirit guides, loved ones, whoever, whatever energy needs to be here from the love and light, just heal. And then we would come out of the healing session, the client would be like, oh my God, how did you know? You touched me here and you touched me there. And I'm like, I didn't touch you there. I love that. Those are my favorite. When clients say, I felt the warmth here and I felt the tingling here, and but I didn't touch them at all. I just trusted and allowed the healing process to take place.
That's like exactly what happened when I was doing Reiki on my friend when Chad first appeared. Like, she was telling me, you know, like, it really freaked me out. I heard you walking on the other side of the room by my feet, but I felt this big hand on my head and it felt kind of icy hot. She's like, I could tell there was another presence there. And it was really insane. But then something also too, like, a lot of people, like, maybe if they're got like some resistance energy or they're stuck and holding on to it, sometimes people are like, oh no, why do I feel sick after Reiki, or why do I feel sick after like a guidance session? And it's just trying to come up and out.
Yes. because it's like having stomach flu and trying to force it down with something. I don't know, Pepto-Bismol or something. If it comes up, you have to release it in whatever form it may be. It could be through vomiting, it could be through a headache that needs to be released, the energy in the head area. It could be many different things. It could be through bowel movements.
Yeah.
I've had many clients, whether it's hypnotherapy session or even past lives lately, where the client, before I even bring them out, they're like, oh my God, I have to use the restroom.
Yes.
And that's when I know it's a release that needs to happen. And they're like, where did that come from? I just went to the restroom. And I'm like, you don't understand. Your body knows how to release the energy that doesn't belong any longer.
Definitely.
And wherever that energy is stored is how it's going to come out. If it's here, it needs to come out through the crown. If it's in the throat, it needs to come out through the mouth. If it's in the abdomen, it needs to come out through bowel movements or urination, whatever form. Or sweat, or laughter, or screaming, or laughing, or crying, whatever form. I always tell my clients, you know that you're free to do and go through the process however you need to. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, because I was kind of afraid the first time I did energy work on someone, because my friends would always say, oh, I feel so sick, I feel worse than I did before. And I'm like, oh no, what did I do? And I'm like, oh, it's me. But
if your intention is clear and of love and light, which I know yours always is, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just stuff that they've suppressed that needs to come out, and they need to just be willing to say, my intention is to release and let go of whatever is in mine.
Right. And something I want to talk about too, like kind of jumping back to the self-love topic, is that something I've been learning lately a lot too, and Dharma, if you're out there, you help me with this, thank you. But is like learning your value, because for me, like, it was interesting the first time I did a past life regression with you, when I saw those like beautiful soul family members, it really confused me when they said you need to work on self-love, because I thought like I love myself or something. I thought like, oh, I don't hate myself anymore, you know what I mean? But like even still today, I'm like, oh, I didn't value myself. So right now I'm really like have been spending a lot of time working on valuing myself and setting boundaries, because a lot of people will want to take from you.
Of course.
And especially as a healer, especially as anybody doing what you love, being an entrepreneur, it's like people will want to take from you, and you want to like give to them, but you don't like realize like, oh, they're just gonna keep taking, and you gotta know your value and put your foot down.
And unfortunately, because our society, 98% of the population tends to live from their ego, people mistaken our humbleness and love and joy for weakness. But that's not what that is. It's not a weakness, it's a strength to be loving, to be kind, even in situations where people are coming at you with all the force of their ego.
Definitely. And it's like interesting too, because like talking about this, something I've realized on my like authenticity journey is that like a lot of people aren't authentic. A lot of people are really mimicking each other, because we have like what's it called, mirror neurons, and like literally our brain is mirroring and reflecting and mimicking everything to kind of like fit in. And we do this too. So for me, like my whole life, I always stood out, and a lot of people would like kind of separate from me or say like, oh, she thinks she's all that or something. And I'm like, no, like I'm just me, I'm just different, I'm just like this empath over here chilling, you know? And like even at work that would cause issues too. People would like make fun of me, all this stuff, because I was happy, I was genuine, I was really me, and people would see that as like a weak person they could kick. But I had to realize like, no, you can't do that.
And loving boundaries, love.
And a lot of the time people want to be able to be authentic too, and it hurts them seeing somebody else like that.
Exactly.
You know?
That's why we need to set healthy, loving boundaries, which means we're not going to be rough, we're not going to be egotistical, we are going to practice being self-full and not selfish.
Right, and something that I learned recently is like, even though it seems counterintuitive, having boundaries can actually cause you to expand even more in love and have more love, because it's kind of like sometimes we enable people, but by having healthy boundaries we can help them grow and give them the exact love they need without them taking from us either.
Absolutely.
So what's a twin flame, and how can you know if it's a twin flame or not?
Well, to me, twin flame is individuals that come into your life to make a difference, to make a change. And so, I mean, to me, honestly, it could be any word like that we can use: twin flame, twin soul, partner, you know, in whatever form they come. They could come and stay a while depending on how much unfinished business there is, or they can come and go away very fast. So it just depends on how many lifetimes that we've experienced together and what has happened and what needs to be finished. And so to me, that's basically what twin flames or twin soul partners or connections or any of those titles, because there's so many different words that we can use on those titles, right, to give it.
So how does it work for past lives? Do you think we're all just one and we can tap into any past lives, or just our own past lives?
Well, we can't tap into other people's past lives, but we can tap into our own past lives. And I myself, I've done more than 10 past lives on myself, and within those 10, every time I asked my spirit guides how many lifetimes I've had, they said more than 257. And so imagine within those 257 how many twin flames I've had, and I will continue to have. Every client, every one of you that comes my way, I always see you guys as a soul sister or soul brother or connection from past lives where I've taught and I've connected with. Some of you are from Egypt, some of you are from Native American lifetimes, some of you are from India, and there's so many, and Egypt is the biggest one for me.
Yes, me too.
We've had so many.
Yes.
Yeah, so and there's so many soul connections. And recently, one of the biggest things that I'm experiencing is me in my sleep experiencing different lifetimes.
Yes.
And I know it's happening in this lifetime, which means there's twin flames happening in different lifetimes, and me connecting with other souls and having, because our soul is capable of, dividing up and having multiple lifetimes at once. And so, well, that's it. It's all good stuff.
Yes. We'll talk about that later, getting into multidimensionality. It's like we can tap into that stuff. Just like Jesus, everybody's like, how can you be with everybody that's praying? It's like multidimensional perspective.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Tap into
omnipresent, absolutely. Yes. Even our spirit loved ones.
Yes.
At this point, do I believe that my father-in-law is everywhere and anywhere with all of his family members? Yes.
Yes, me too. When I first started connecting with my guides and with loved ones, they kept saying omnipresent, we're omnipresent. So I would be like, where are you? How come I can't see you? And they're like, we're always here. Right. And I'm like, how? And they're like, we're omnipresent
and that's
too.
The thing. Every single one of us intuitively has one sense stronger. Some intuitive people hear spirit, some physically see spirit, some feel spirit. Well, mine is, I don't physically see spirit, I see it in my inner vision. It's hard to explain, but it's like a vision inside of your head. You know what I'm talking about. And feelings. For me, feelings on the physical level. When I'm working with a client, next to the recliner, when my client is in hypnosis, when I welcome spirit loved ones, they show up in different ways. The other day, one of them tapped me in the back and pushed me forward, or they would, tickle like my feet, or touch my hair, or I would get chills in different parts of my body. So it's, spirit communicates in many different forms and ways. It just, when the more in tune we are, and that self-worth, that self-love stuff, the more connected you are to yourself, the more that you experience from the metaphysical world.
Yes, so true. So I think going back to how do you know if it's a soulmate or twin flame, it's like even soul family. Like I realize that soulmates aren't just boyfriend, girlfriend. It's like best friends too. Exactly. Like I have friends, it's like, you're definitely a soulmate, like even if you see a stranger on the street, you look them in the eye and for some reason it's like, oh my gosh, I've known you forever. Like how do I know you? You're like some 70-year-old man. You know what I mean?
It's like instant recognition, because the souls never forget one another. It's our mind that is, or brain that is forgotten. It's the ego that doesn't recognize, but the higher self always intuitively is in tune to every single soul that has ever come or came or will come into our life.
Definitely. So you'll know, it's like that feeling of home, that feeling of recognizing somebody, and you just instantly know everything about each other, connect with each other, and it's like kind of like, sometimes even if it's like your own soul shard, it's kind of like, oh, this is me, and you really connect with it. So I hope that answers your question. On to 5D. 5D is like Christ consciousness. And like we were talking about before, like a lot of people are like, oh, Jesus says you can only get to heaven through me. But it's like seventh dimension is heaven, Jesus is fifth dimension, so it makes sense you gotta go through the fifth dimension to go to the seventh dimension. And fifth dimension is ascended masters and everything too.
Right. And to me, ultimately, the message that Christ gave, remember, Christ used to speak through metaphors, not through literal words.
Yes.
And people thought only through him. But what did he represent? He represented love and light.
Yes.
Right? So it's through the love and light that we're going. And to me, there's not a person on earth, whether people would agree or disagree, that goes to hell. Because to me, hell doesn't exist.
Me too.
There is no hell. There's only heaven. And even heaven is not a place. Heaven is within ourselves. Coming back to our first topic of self-love, that once you're reunited or reconnected to your heart center, you're already in heaven.
Right.
You don't need to die and go anywhere, because death is really the death of the ego. It's not the death of the spirit. The spirit lives on.
Definitely.
Eternally.
Yes, and like part of that too, it's really interesting because like a lot of people think like, oh, I hated my grandpa, he's dead now, like why would he want to hang out with me, you know? But it's like
in the spirit world,
his ego's gone.
Yes. His ego died away and now he's spirit.
Yeah, so their true essence returns. And like a lot of the time people will say, why is so-and-so trying to connect to me? I never liked them. And I'm like, look, they're telling you they're sorry, they're not that same person anymore because their ego literally died. They return back to their true essence and they love you. They're sorry.
Yes, oftentimes that happens in my sessions when spirit loved ones communicate with us, and my clients would say, well, but I wasn't close to that grandfather or grandmother or that uncle or whatever, and I actually didn't even like them. I say, you need to bypass the ego, and that person already bypassed the ego. Their ego is nowhere to be found. So you need to realize that on the other side, spirit is all pure love and light.
Yes.
There's no judgment, there's no sadness, there's no limitations.
Yes, and they're with us every step of the way. All you need to do is remember their energy and call on them to tap back into them. You can do automatic writing, you could meditate, you could ask them to show up in your sleep. There's so many different modalities for them to come through.
Right.
And like even sometimes people think, oh, like so-and-so died, is really sad, but it's like sometimes their presence on the other side could help you heal more than it might have here when the ego was still alive.
Somebody's saying, how do you find your spirit guides?
Spirit guides? I just asked.
Yes. Ask and now you've already received.
Yeah, I literally just like told the universe
and commit to it. I think one of the biggest things that I would tell our listeners is commit to it, because yes, we want something and then it doesn't happen right away. The ego is quick to say, see, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. Oftentimes I'm very playful with the universe, and I have half a dozen stories I could say, but I think we're going to run out of time if I were to go into it. But I'm very playful with the universe, so whenever I want a sign, just randomly any sign, and I know I've shared my stories with you, you know my sign stories. I just give the universe time. I just say 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, and within that time, it's like giving them that gap to connect with you, to show you. And if we are not aware or conscious and present enough, we can miss the signs. It doesn't mean the sign was not given. It's always given. It's just we need to be awake, aware, mindful, and present to actually feel and see the signs. Yes. And the signs are always there. But when we are, they exceed our expectations always.
Right. And part of the thing too that I tell people is to go into it without expectations, because when we expect a certain sign, when we expect a certain looking guide, it can alter what's there, and also it can make us miss what actually was the sign or what actually was our guide. So basically for me, I would just go into meditation like just expecting to meditate, nothing fancy happening, and that's when I would see things, that's when I would receive messages, that's when I would meet my guides. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this and you better show up, you know what I mean?
Right.
I was just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to do this thing, I'm open to it. If you guys have anything to tell me, come through. But like, sometimes too, people will tell me like when they're meditating, they'll try to make out a face. But for me, I'm like, maybe don't do that, because our brain has facial recognition. So we might try to make something that might be a specific message into something different, and it actually clouds our perception of what's really there. So basically just ask for it, tell them you're ready, allow it, go within yourself to see any blocks, try to be present.
And playful. Be childlike, I always tell you guys, right? Be childlike, because the more childlike you are, the more playful the universe becomes, the more playful you become with the universe.
Yes, the first time I talked to my grandma on the other side, I wanted specific insights, and all she kept telling me was return to childlike joy. I want to see you with that joy you had as a child. I'm like, really? That's all you're going to tell me?
Yes.
But once I went back to that, it all came.
Absolutely.
And you think it's funny. You think like, oh, these ninth dimensional beings going to be so sophisticated. No, they're pretty hilarious. Like mine, like they use their humor against us. Like mine will crack fart jokes at me just to make me understand a certain concept, you know? They're really funny because humor works to get the message across.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Exactly. Are we done?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. We talk about fifth dimension, basically. It's like, for me, it's Christ consciousness, you know, returning to no judgment, loving other people, embodying that.
Loving yourself as you love others. I use that quote from Christ in my book because we forget that in loving others, we can't love ourselves, or in loving only ourselves, we can't. The absence of one cannot be, like, that equation can't be complete if there's absence of one. So you can't possibly love others and not love yourself, and you can't love yourself only and not love others. It just works. It's combined. It works together.
And one quick exercise that I was doing on the same subject was, I was reading in a book, somebody was saying, like, oh, you know, you think, like, you see yourself through God's eyes and this kind of stuff. It's like the pure essence of your soul, but you have to do that with other people too. Like, you might be angry at somebody, but that's not how God sees that person. That's not how Source sees that person. So I've been trying to embody that view of, like, God's view of the person. Like, if I'm upset with somebody, I'm like, no, they're not really like that. This is how they really are, you know, and we start to apply it to ourselves too, and we can not let our faults hold us back. We just start to see this divine creature that creates whatever it wants.
So when Dalai Lama says, you know, there are sacred friends, our enemies are our sacred friends.
Yes, so true.
Because, I mean, this is when I realized that, of course, we're all divine beings of love and light. It just depends on how much a person forces their egos to be in the present or in their life. You know, some people choose more of the higher self, some people choose the ego, and the more we're on the side of the ego, the, I guess, angrier or darker that we become, and even our aura and our energy shifts and changes when we do that. You know, those people, to me, need love the most. Because they're so far away from that love and light. By giving them love and not saying, oh, I don't like you, and you're terrible, and you're this and that, we're sending now that dark energy towards them, right? And energy is like a boomerang. I always say, just be careful what you send to others. The other day, one of my clients, it was so funny, she said, well, I hope this individual that hurt me has diarrhea for the next year every day. And I said, no, be careful what you wish for, because in wishing bad, it can boomerang effect and then affect you in a negative way. And so I said, no matter how angry we may be at someone, I know in the beginning it's really hard to send love and light to someone. That's difficult, but as you try and move further away from that story and the days go by, it's going to be easier and easier and easier, because by doing that you kind of dissolve that negative energy coming from them and you sending it to them as well. And so love and light to me is the way to go.
And a big aspect of that too is kind of like, you know, hurt people. And in the past I thought, oh, this person's just mean. You know, it's this bias we have. I forget what exactly the bias is called, but it's where you think that a person is how they are because of internal characteristics instead of external events happening. Like we think, oh, that person's lazy, when really maybe they just didn't sleep or something legit happened in their lives.
Exactly. Or people that cut us off and we don't know what's happening in their life. Maybe they got bad news, or
they could be preggers.
Exactly. You just never know. You just never know. We're quick to judge, right? The ego is quick to judge.
Yes. And on this note, I want to leave you guys with this. If you are trying to switch your mindset to something that's more positive, be patient with yourself. Don't get frustrated if negative thoughts creep in, because say we have like a small negative thought coming in and we're like, no, like our negativity just goes down even more because we're creating that resistance to the thought instead of just letting it pass by and say, okay, like that's not us. Like I'm just going to watch it go on its way. It's okay, you know.
I love the loving comments everybody's sending. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes.
Be so patient with yourselves.
Love yourselves.
Love yourselves. Most importantly.
Yes.
And thank you for all the wonderful, loving comments that you guys are sending us. Love and light to you all.
Yes, we love you. If you have any questions for us, send us some DMs for next time. We'll be making some video.
We'd love to do that. Good night, everybody.
See you. Thank you for tuning in.
Love you all.